Today I'm going to talk to you about the keyboards and how I use them. This is a holder for my iPad which I can watch while I'm lying in bed. Often I'll be using my Quest 3 while I'm lying in bed, using that controller but also a keyboard. That's my ceiling projector while I'm lying in bed, and there's my television when I'm sort of sitting up on the couch or in bed. Other times I often have my projector mounted there facing up at the ceiling, so when I'm lying in bed I look at the ceiling and see that. Here I've got an ultra wide screen which is currently set to not its maximum width, so I've got that now set to widescreen, and that's my secondary monitor for OBS. I'll generally use that as a secondary OBS monitor. So I've got a bunch of keyboards here that I use, starting with the Logitech K830. I've got two of these. I've just taken both of them in to get repaired from somebody on Airtasker, and they often have a problem with the terminal on the back. I've since put a magnetic connection there so that it can plug in to a magnetic connector so that the micro USB doesn't keep breaking, but the keys have now started breaking, and I've opened it multiple times and I keep having problems with it. So I've had to buy replacement keyboards to replace my two K830. I can tell you right now from the outset that the K830 keyboard is vastly superior with its trackpad and everything else while lying in bed, while using the Quest 3, while sitting at this desk, everything else, even if I'm using a mouse at the same time, which is extremely rare because I'm hardly ever sitting or standing at this sit-down, stand-up desk. But I can tell you I move around the house and I need a keyboard wherever I'm sitting or standing. Okay, so now I'm going to show you a comparison between this K830 keyboard and these other keyboards which I've just purchased, some of which I'm going to be taking back for refund. This is the Rii X8, which is a little handheld one. This is the Rii, it stands for Real Internet Idea. Fucking stupid name. This is called the 2.4G wireless, and the RT721. Okay, that is not even backlit, so that makes it pretty much useless for nearly everything I do because I'm usually only awake at night or with all the curtains drawn. This one is a wired keyboard, but at least it's backlit, so it's not completely useless except for the fact that it has to stay on the desk. You cannot move it around the house to do other things, which I am constantly doing. This is that keyboard I just showed you from Rii. This one at least has volume controls that are within easy reach, but you can't feel them, and you might inadvertently be controlling the mouse cursor when you're just trying to change the volume control. The three main buttons on any of the keyboards that I use are the volume up, volume down, and the mute button, because I'm constantly doing things with audio visual stuff. I'm also a video editor. Every single day I'm doing video editing, so I need to be able to hold the mouse button down and drag around with a secondary mouse control, ideally. And so I need the center scroll wheel and the left mouse click as the main two mouse buttons. I'd arguably say the scroll wheel on the mouse is almost as important as the volume up and down. This one has a dedicated scroll wheel as well as sliding two fingers up and down there. This communicates, just like the others, with a little 2.4 gigahertz dongle, which I plug into a central hub that sits in the hallway halfway between all my rooms here. Okay, so looking at these keyboards, what do I think of this one? Well, when I'm sitting down, I can't easily see the keys. They're quite far apart, so I have to stretch my hand quite a long way to get this particular keyboard, which is from the company Unnamed. Doesn't even have a name for this particular keyboard. I'm sure I could find what they've called it on Amazon. And so this is probably my least favorite. There are some occasional times when I'm using Unity or some advanced programming software where I actually do need the number pad. The rest of the time, as you'll see, none of my other keyboards have a number pad, and it takes up a huge amount of desk space. It does not have a trackpad, which all the others do. So, I mean, this is my least favorite. From there onwards, I don't need all those buttons, and as I go to reach and feel for the keyboard buttons, I find that this is all just superfluous, and it's where I basically want to have the mouse sitting or something similar. Look at the width of the K830 compared to that. See, the the keyboard for the K830 really ends there. And then that's trackpad, and then that's all superfluous. Stretching my hands around on this keyboard, it annoys me. And also, at a glance, when I'm sitting with an angle, basically looking at the keys like that. And with this one, I feel like I've got to reach over and just really stretch my hands out. So this is quite uncomfortable to use. Also, the keyboard presses are very loud. Now, this one has a bezel, which means there's plastic around the edges, so when you're grabbing this to pass it around to other people on the couch beside you or whatever, you can just grab it. Also, it's in the mouse trackpad and where the buttons are in a very comfortable location with your right hand while you're using this. I often use it left-handed because it's on the couch beside me while I'm drinking or eating or smoking or whatever else. So that makes this all very comfortable and easy to use. It may just be that I'm used to it. Now, I've just ordered the K400, which hasn't arrived yet, just because this one is broken and none of these ones feel ideal for me. This is the one I've been using in bed while this one's been broken, just on the couch beside me, trying to do things like this. At least the volume controls are easy to access at all times on this particular little handheld keyboard, but it's very uncomfortable to have to move that around and hold down the left mouse button while dragging things. Occasionally I'll switch over to this if I remember it exists, otherwise I'll just continue using the 2-finger slider for dragging up and down. This one has a side dedicated area for scrolling, which I can't imagine if it's any use, because I usually just use 2 fingers, which is easy enough anyway, and having this as a potential hazard could be a problem. I've really hardly ever used this one because it's not backlit. I've got all the lights turned on now, but I hate the feeling of having overhead lights. Alexa, turn the light off. Alexa, turn the light off. Okay, so that's much better. So I just have usually light controls so I can control all of my multiple cameras and lighting for proper filming against the blue or green screen in my studio here. This one is less than $50. This one is now about $700 because they're rare as hen's teeth. They usually just have the problem with the port on the back, which is micro USB, falling in and wriggling around, and you can't charge it anymore unless you open it up and solder that back down, which is difficult to do. And the guy who just recently repaired this broke the rest of the keyboard, and now I'm fighting him using AirTasker's insurance policy system. And he's still got my other keyboard, and I don't know if he's going to ever send it back to me or replace it or what he's going to do. He's a con artist. This one, not backlit. Also, buttons go right to the edge. You can't see, I didn't even mean to press the left mouse button there, but you can cause immense damage to your projects. And like if you're video editing or writing a project, you could accidentally hide everything and click delete just as you're picking this thing up. Deadly, highly prone to causing extreme damage. I would not recommend any keyboard where the buttons come all the way to the edge with no bezel so you can grab it and pick the keyboard up as you're moving it around. When I'm sitting on the couch, the underside of it is very slippery and it falls off my knees and it's very uncomfortable to hold. It's quite heavy and metallic, which feels like it's good build quality, but it's irrelevant when you're chucking it around on your couch or passing it to people like a remote control for your TV in the situation of home theater PC, personal computer, which is a category for keyboards these days. This is an HTPC keyboard, so is this, so is this, so is this, okay? This is not because it's wired as well. So it has to be plugged into a USB port and sit on a table, which is useless from nearly 100% of everything I do, because I'm usually holding the keyboard on my chest or on my lap or something similar, and just trying to avoid letting it slide onto the floor, or it sits on the arm of my couch or on my bed beside me or whatever else. This one is very uncomfortable for accidentally pressing buttons, and feeling the trackpad here right now, it's just like, it doesn't need to be that vertically long, okay? This rectangular, wider, like 16:9 almost, versus this is pretty much a 1-to-1 full aspect ratio of a very big square mousepad. They should have squeezed this up, because as you're using the keys and you want to reach over the left or right mouse button, it's nicer to have them exactly where these ones are, right next to the shift key basically. Well, it could be that I'm just used to that. Having the left mouse click up here while I'm doing things is not very practical, and it's not in a nice place either. Also with this one, at least you can sort of feel in the darkness, because when it times out, all these keyboards stop illuminating just to Make sure that they don't waste battery. But on this, you just move your finger around and then this re-illuminates again. Very easy and clear to see the buttons if you do need to look at the keyboard. But generally speaking, I know this keyboard by feel. Top right hand corner is volume control, top left is escape out of a program. All very good. There is an extra button on the top left hand here, which is the same as the left mouse click. This one just has that one. All these also have gestures, so if you tap once with one finger, that's a left click, and if you tap with two fingers, it's a right click, and if you scroll with two fingers, it's mouse scroll wheel. This does have the ability to zoom in and out on all these with gestures, but they are nowhere near as fine and accurate as the Macintosh, Apple Macintosh trackpads, which are vastly superior to any Windows-based keyboard. But Mac is a children's toy and you can't get anything done. Nothing's compatible with that software, and it's always the worst software. For example, the dialog box, when you go into something like, if you go into something like Photoshop even, you'll go to save something and you'll realize you need to move some files around, but the dialog box looks exactly the same as their version of Finder, and yet you still can't do what you can do in Finder, what you can do in the dialog box in pop-up programs like, say, for example, Photoshop or Premiere Pro or anything. There's no way to do your file organization nicely on a Mac, and so therefore you're lost, and the operating system just puts files and folders where it wants to, and you pretty much have zero control over your own computer, which is why anybody who's serious or knows how to build computers or knows anything about computers will not be using a Mac. But that doesn't mean to say that the trackpad that's built by Apple is not the best in the world, the Magic Pad by Apple. Now, trying to use a Magic Pad trackpad from Apple on a PC is possible, but I've always found it was just not integrating nicely anyway, so it wasn't worth it. Also, Apple doesn't really tend to sell portable backlit keyboards, okay? You want backlit. Here, over here, under this circumstance where I'm right up against the desk, that's fine. I can sort of see this lighting up, but most of the time the lighting on me looking at the keyboard would be more akin to this, but a lot darker because I've still got the bedroom. Alexa, turn off the bedroom light. So usually there'd be a bright light coming from a screen over there, and that's my view of the keyboard, and there's no chance that this is going to illuminate because it doesn't have the functionality to have any backlighting whatsoever. So, which is my favorite? This one, K830, but it's broken. Can I buy another one? No, they're obsolete. If you want to buy a second-hand one, people are just going to rip you off, charge you $700 or something, plus $100 shipping from eBay or something, and potentially I'll sell it and say it's broken, and I'll still get $100 for it. Because it's mostly working. There's just a few little buttons in here. If you opened it up and you knew how to solder and get things fixed, it would work again. But I've had it repaired twice and nobody knows how to fix it because they're all shit at their jobs and there are fake people advertising that they know how to fix keyboards. I've got to sit down. This is all very exhausting. And I hope you understand that this is content-rich information here. And if you're the sort of person who just sits at a desk and doesn't move from the desk, you won't be able to relate to anything I'm talking about. But if you're the sort of person who uses Quest 3 headset, ceiling projector in your main bedroom, you're sitting on the couch, you want to pass the keyboard around because it's like a remote control for your PC television set. You have a central computer that's wired through multiple sources to the ceiling in different rooms and other televisions throughout the house and everything else. And you want to be able to walk around freely with a keyboard and mouse on one thing and be able to use it upside down and every other way you want without having to ever need a desk, like to use an actual mouse, then you will relate. And this is for you. Do you want one of these tiny little ones? I guess it's a cover. It covers the problem, but it's not the sort of thing you can really use without looking at it. This one, you know from feel, because of the way the keys are spaced away from each other and everything else, that when you touch in the top right corner, you don't have to look at the actual keyboard every time you just want to change the volume, okay? Now on this one, for example, this has a volume control up here, but you can't see it. And I don't even know what just happened. I just double tapped up here on the volume control and now different things have started activating and deactivating. I can't feel it. It's all a flat surface all the way through there. And I don't know what's just happened to my precious software that I was just opening, and so I'm working on projects now. This keyboard could be faking it for me, I don't know. I don't trust it. Certainly don't trust it. Like, why couldn't they have made those volume control buttons something you could feel? Because 99% of the time I use a keyboard, I'm just feeling for the keys. I don't have to look at the freaking keyboard. My attention should be up here. So I've ordered a couple more keyboards. They're on their way. This is the K840 is coming. Sorry, the K400 is coming, which is the cheap-ass version of this, which is not going to be backlit, so I probably won't like it, but at least the keys are in the same configuration. I'm also getting the backlit version of the RII, which is called the Rii K830 and I'm also going to get the Arteck, but that will take until June to arrive, which is this one, okay? And reviews say that this is nowhere near as good as this, but this is second best. And nobody's giving massive thumbs up to any of the others, because there are hardly any competitors for these products in the world. Like, I don't know why anyone would give you a non-backlit couch keyboard. This thing is, I mean, I've had an Xbox controller with a little keyboard stuck into the bottom, and it's much nicer to hold and got a good weight to it and everything else. You can sort of use the thumbsticks on the Xbox controller to move around. So if you have to choose between this and an Xbox controller with a keyboard shoved into the bottom of the Xbox controller, I would choose that, not this. This is better than nothing, and you can use it from a couch. In terms of transmission, in terms of it dropping out or not understanding keys, I'm occasionally getting some problems like that with this one, just from being even on that central location where that's transmitting out 2.4 gigahertz transmissions everywhere. This one seems to work really well throughout the entire house without ever having any problems, but it's broken internally. This one's just wired to the... I mean, it does have a stand like this, so you can lift it, but I don't like touching it. It feels like... This feels smooth and silky, smooth, shiny reflection. This one's rough, so it's got some texture to it. This one's slightly rough. This one's just slippery, and these keys are just a bit rough. But I just... There's no weight. There's something missed. There's something without a soul about all of this. This one. I don't know. This one's got some weight to it, but it's annoying. Like, there's no way to safely pick it up, and I'm always pressing those buttons. They're designed to basically accidentally be pressed, and I hate that about this RII keyboard. And when I figured out that RII doesn't mean something amazing, it's not like some secret initialization for a really cool name. It's for something called Real Internet Idea. It's just a stupid company name from a stupid company, and they're trying to copy Logitech, and I don't know how good Logitech is. At least Logitech uses the 4 letters from technology, TECH, whereas this one that I'm going to be buying, which is some imitation, is using the letters TECK, like some children baby toy or something, which is what you expect when something's made in China with no English-speaking oversight. This old one, I just found it lying around. I haven't probably ever used it. I might feel what that's like compared to this one now that I'm potentially going to keep this one while I wait for these other sort of ones to arrive. But overall, when the good ones working arrive, I will not want to use this one ever again. I will never want to use this one, not even at a desk, nothing, but at least it takes up less space on the desk. So potentially, I would potentially use it from the desk instead of having to use that. And at least you can see the keys at a glance. But there's a lot of white on the screens at the moment, and there's that light over there, so that's how this is getting light all over it. But if I go back here like that into normal standard lighting, it's very hard to see the keys on this thing. I've put my glasses on and everything. This one has nice big letters you can read easily, but still, I mean, I prefer the smaller keyboard layout with the fingers being able to reach everything nicely, whereas this one I'm often, because one of the main things I do is Control-Shift-Alt-S to save a specific file in a certain way, and then I'm going to Control-Alt-Delete and all these different things. Like, you know, it is all possible to do all these things, but it's not nice. Nothing is nice on that. This is the least comfortable keyboard to use by far. This one gets second place as least comfortable because everything's very weird and awkward. Because left mouse button being there and then having to do that, it's not nice. This scroll wheel does work fine if that's a major thing that you're doing, like if you're scrolling through the internet, like some low-level consumer who doesn't have any purpose in life, you get a good time out of using that one. But if you're a creator and you're actually worthwhile and you matter in this universe, then you're probably making things and going through programs of software that, you know, that actually require you to get your hands dirty on the keyboard all over the keyboard. You want a keyboard where you can actually reach buttons and get things done properly. Now, the most important thing, having said all that, is the volume up and down button. Now, if you use this keyboard to control up and down volume, you could actually fucking use two halves of a hand. Where is it? FN. You could actually look at the keyboard and figure out, stop everything you're doing. The volume's blaring all of a sudden. You've switched speakers. Now the people in that apartment building are waking up because you fucking can't change it quickly. You gotta hold that button down and then stretch your hand all the way over here to go volume down to change the volume on the keyboard there and up. And you're really going to aim and look at the keyboard. It's absolutely a deal breaker. This one here, like I said, you need to switch all the lights on just to see what the fuck's going on. And you never know what you're doing. Are you double clicking left or right or something on the keyboard? Are you doing volume control? You need to turn all the lights on, stop what you're doing and look at it. It's fucking ridiculous. More Chinese shit. This one, at least, you can feel top right corner, even though you do have to click around here somewhere, try and pick a button. It's not going to destroy the software you're using because moving your finger on the trackpad does not wake this one up, which is shit. It wakes this one up. This is the K830. This is the best keyboard I've ever owned by far. The K830 by Logitech. But it's broken and the other one is broken too. Like certain keys in here in this area stop working. Sometimes I'll unscrew the back and look inside and go, I couldn't find anything wrong. Close it up and then they'll all work again. And I'll go, oh good, that's sorted. And then all of a sudden the D won't work. Like what the fuck's going on with that? And then all of a sudden these will stop working again. So there's some loose connections inside internally that I don't know how to secure nicely without taking it back to the factory from where it was born, which is now shut down, and they don't want to mess with selling these things anymore because they've got so many complaints and problems about them, even though they're still the best keyboard in the world. The K830 by Logitech. All these other ones they pale in comparison. You don't want something that's not backlit, get rid of that as an option. The wired one, you're really stuck at your console. You don't want to be stuck at a desk, but if you are, you might as well. But even so, you don't want something that's like 2 entire hand spans wide, and sometimes you've really got to navigate unless you really need the num keys for 3D design or gaming, creating computer game software like using Unity or Unreal or something. I don't think it's necessary to have all those extra buttons from that direction onwards. Just in the keyboard there, and then just make do with the numbers along the top. But there are certain programs where you have to have the num key. I would say for those particular programs, maybe just get a separate num key interface and don't ever get one of these keyboards again. And it's very loud. You don't want to have to deal with that. I'm trying to think of how I could have said this in any less words. I could drop this video now as it is, knowing that I haven't received 2 of the keyboards, which will probably matter. Maybe I'll just do that as part 1 of the video series, and I'll come back. Other things on my desk include audio wireless in-ear monitor transmitters and microphone transmitters and receivers, mixing desk, all plugged in with its audio interface as well. Wireless guitar transmitters, wireless audio interfaces, and guitars and everything that are plugged into the computer with lighting and everything that's hooked up into Bluetooth and so on that connects with my green and blue screens, and a couple of iPhone 12, iPhone 11 that are mounted on a side rig, which I've gone through before. And this is all mounted on a Magnus Pro Secret Lab stand-up, sit-down desk. And like I say, this is the central computer for all the rooms in my house, which All of them have a screen. Some are wireless, you wear on your face. Others are projected straight onto the ceiling, and others are setting up like old school on a TV stand as an actual sort of television set, like a 4K 65-inch in there, and iPads and so on that are wirelessly receiving all the data from here in real time. The keyboard is the main way that you, as your hand, can connect to all of this information so you can take over and control the world. If you can get your hands on a K830, that's the way to do it. Otherwise, the next thing I've heard is good at this point in history is the Arteck Backlit.